a young Julius Caesar stared at the sea, his hands bound, while a band of Cilician pirates laughed at the ransom they demanded. The sun burned the deck of their sleek galley, the smell of salt and tar mingling with the faint scent of sweat from the captive who would later become Rome's most infamous dictator. It is 75 BC, and the Roman noble, then in his mid-20s, is on a modest voyage to Rhodes, hoping to study rhetoric under the great teachers of the Hellenic world. The ship, a simple merchant vessel, had strayed too close to the coast of the island of Pharmacusa, a known haunt for Cilician marauders who prowled the Aegean like wolves in a pasture. The pirates seized the vessel in a flash, their oars cutting through the water as if they were slicing a cake. They dragged the terrified Caesar onto their deck, tied his wrists with rough hemp, and tossed a handful of coins onto the planks. Estimates suggest the pirates initially demanded around 20 talents, a talent being roughly 30 kilograms of silver. Caesar reportedly countered that a ransom of perhaps 50 talents would be more appropriate, arguing that a man of his family deserved a higher price. The pirates, taken aback by his audacity, agreed to raise the demand, believing that a larger sum would bring richer merchants to his rescue. Word of the kidnapping spread through the bustling markets of Miletus, where merchants whispered about the captive's noble lineage. Caesar's mother, Aurelia, a woman of stern resolve, received the news while arranging a modest banquet for her son. She did not panic, instead, she called upon her network of clients and friends, offering silver, gold, and promises of future favors. The Roman elite, aware that the Republic valued its aristocracy, pooled resources and sent envoys to the pirates' camp on the island. The ransom negotiations turned into a theatrical affair. Caesar, even in chains, recited verses of Ennius and mocked the pirates with a grin, treating them as if they were fellow scholars debating philosophy. When the ransom finally arrived, according to sources, roughly 50 talents of gleaming silver, the pirates celebrated with wine and music, their laughter echoing against the cliffs. Caesar, however, did not simply sit back and wait for his release. He spent the days observing the pirates' routines, noting the creak of their hulls, the way they stored provisions, the patterns of their patrols. He learned the names of the crew, the layout of their hideout, and the exact moment the tide revealed a shallow sandbank that could trap a ship. In quiet moments, he whispered to his fellow captives, promising that once free he would return to exact a punishment that would make their current suffering seem like a child's play. The day the ransom was paid, the pirates untied Caesar, handing him a simple rope to climb back onto his own vessel. As he stepped onto the deck, he turned to the captain and, according to later legend, warned the pirates that he would hang them from the mast as an example to any who would dare seize a Roman citizen. The pirates, drunk on triumph, laughed louder than before, unaware that the man they had mocked now carried the fire of a future emperor. Caesar's ship slipped away from the island, but his mind stayed anchored to the memory of the pirate camp. Within weeks, he returned to Rome, his reputation already tinged with the legend of his boldness. Yet the story did not end at the harbor. Determined to fulfill his promise, Caesar gathered a small fleet of private ships, financed largely from his own family's wealth and the proceeds of his own enterprises. He set sail back to the island, this time as a commander, not a captive. The journey was swift, the Mediterranean winds favored his pursuit. When he arrived, the pirates were caught off guard. Their once confident captain tried to bargain, offering more silver, but Caesar's eyes were cold. In a swift and decisive raid, Caesar's men seized the pirates' stronghold. The captives were bound, and Caesar ordered that each be stripped of their weapons and forced to kneel. He then commanded that the men be crucified, a punishment reserved for the worst criminals of Rome. As the wooden crosses rose, the pirates begged for mercy, pleading that they had only taken what the sea had given them. Caesar, recalling his own humiliation, replied that mercy was a luxury he could not afford to grant. He instructed his soldiers to cut down the bodies after a short time, allowing the wounded to die slowly, a cruel reminder that defiance of Rome would be met with relentless retribution. The turn in this tale arrives not in the act of vengeance, but in the lingering echo of Caesar's own words. Contemporary historians, such as Plutarch, note that the young Caesar's experience with the pirates shaped his perception of power and destiny. He began to see himself not merely as a Roman noble, but as a figure destined to command, to impose order through fear when necessary. The episode also revealed a pattern that would repeat throughout his career: a willingness to break conventions, to treat enemies as subjects, and to use personal humiliation as a catalyst for political ambition. Yet some scholars argue that the story, transmitted through Suetonius and later embellished by Roman moralists, may have been amplified to serve the myth of Caesar's inevitability. The exact details of the ransom negotiation, the precise number of talents, and the manner of the pirates' execution remain points of debate, leaving a veil of mystery over an event that still feels vivid. What remains undeniable is the sensory imprint of that day: the taste of brine on Caesar's tongue as he inhaled the sea air, the clang of metal as the pirates counted their loot, the distant call of gulls over a rocky outcrop that would later become his battlefield. The episode ends not with a tidy moral, but with a lingering question that haunts scholars to this day: did the humiliation and triumph of his kidnapping sow the seeds of the ruthless efficiency that would later topple the Roman Republic? Or was it simply one of many formative experiences that a bright, ambitious mind would weave into a larger tapestry of destiny? The answer, like the waves that crashed against the pirates' island, continues to lap at the shores of history, inviting each new generation to dive deeper into the waters of Caesar's early life.